You know what time it is. You know what time it is.
How firm thy friendship. Oh, how
you know what time it is. I'm raw with them boys of the fall. You know what time it is. On the ground with a nose for the ball. You know what time it is. Blood, sweat, and them tears for this game. Leaving it all out on the field with no fear for you lames. Yeah, you know what time it is. Come brawl with them boys of the fall. Covered in gray and scarlet, massive, stiff arms to your jaw. We breaking it. We sick of seeing you clowns with the crown. We taking it.
Yo, Buckeye Nation! Welcome to the Buckeye Mafia Sit-Down, presented to you by the Buckeye Boys. A channel for the fans, by the fans. Championship edition, baby. 2024 National Champions. I'm your host, Sean Schrock. My other co-host, Tony, Curse Designs. And last but never least, the girl who knows more knowledge than most men, our homegirl, TG. What's up, guys?
Look, before we get super started, I'm just going to set this here and leave it here for a second so we can marvel at the fucking belt that we have. I'm super proud of it, too. I'm so proud of making that. But yeah, so we got that for the next year. I don't think I'm making it. If anybody else wins another one, I won't make one for their team, but our team's got it. So we got the strap. We're here for it. So what's up, though, kids? How's everybody doing?
Hold on a second, guys. Had to take a sip of leprechaun tears. You know what I'm saying? Tastes like victory, guys.
It sure does, dude. I can't wait for the survivors meeting that Dan Lanning and Sark and Marcus Freeman and Josh Heupel are about to start, just to deal with their PTSD that they gathered from this whole playoff run. So.
Now, before we get done gloating, I do want to give Notre Dame some credit, man. They played hard. They were undermanned. They came out. They didn't give up. They played their guts out, man. And I have much respect for Marcus Freeman and what they did. They gave us a fight, man. But in the end, we were just too much for them.
I mean, 31 unanswered points too much for just about anybody in this world, I think.
Now, TG, what do you think was the key to us winning?
Basically, us just being aggressive.
Be aggressive.
Just being aggressive and having smart game plans.
I just thought, they ran. I mean, Leonard's a tough kid, man. Hats off to him. He played his heart out, but they ran him into the ground on the first drive, and that kid was never the same afterwards, man. It looked like he was about ready to die, man. I mean, honestly.
He was puking.
Yeah.
He was puking.
Yeah, if you're puking on drive one, bro, listen, that's not sustainable. 18 plays, 10 minutes, and you ran your quarterback 8 times out of those 18. You have Jeremiah Love. Dude, run him more than 4 times. Do anything.
They tried to, but he got stuffed in the backfield a couple of times. And I do think the reason he did throw up was because of how hard he was getting hit, too. It's and even Marcus knew that wasn't sustainable. They didn't run him that much since.
I was actually shocked by how well he threw the ball down the field in the second half. Their tight ends made some great catches, man. I mean, he put it up. I mean, he threw it 50-50 balls, and their tight ends made some plays, man.
I mean, that Great House kid is actually really good. We could have done without 15 Igbenogson holding everything that moved penalties, but it's whatever.
Well, actually, there were a couple of ticky-tack ones because some of those ones they called on him were ticky-tack. The first one they called on him was legit, but that other one was very ticky-tack.
I don't know. There's a couple that he held 3 or 4 different times, from the time they.
I mean, but you can make the same argument for Notre Dame because they were holding our defensive players when they were blocking, and they never called it. They only called it one time throughout the game. One time, and that was on. Yeah,
one hold in one season. So
one.
We're doing good.
Yeah.
Hey, that was
but still, it was. But at the same time, though, as that second half went on, they never called it again because their wide receivers, when they were blocking our DBs, was holding like crazy. The offensive line, once again, was still holding our defensive line. This time, they just didn't call it.
Hey, can we give some love? Let's give some major love for Will Howard, man. What a year for the kid. People tried clowning him, saying he couldn't throw the deep ball, that he was the reason he left there, Kansas State was because he was going to get benched for, that super freshman they had in. We got laughed at for bringing Will in. I mean, Michigan fans, other fans were saying McCord was much better. I mean, all the guy did was ball. National championship MVP. I mean, the kid had the best statistical for any quarterback. I mean, season for any quarterback in OSU history, man. Hats off to the big guy.
He set the national championship game, like number completion record. Like he did everything they said he couldn't do this year. He did it, and like did it like going away. You know what I'm saying? Like literally, like it's wild. Like it's wild to think what he did and like how he did it. And like this whole season is wild. Like if you think like the last 2 seasons, I think, like I said this during the game, like it's very poetic if you think back to how last season started, the 23 season, how it started. It started with us beating Notre Dame barely, and like us like having high hopes for the year, and then like the high hopes were dashed. You know what I'm saying? Like we had Kyle McCord, and it just did close game after close game and underachieving, and the way we spotted Michigan 7 and we lost by 6, and like we just went out not great, and the way the offseason went, it was our line was a problem, and it was like another Devin Brown battle, and like Howard and just all that stuff. And then the season started, and we had high hopes again, and we underachieved into the Oregon game, and then we last second we lost, and then like we came out and we underachieved for the Nebraska game, and then somehow we pulled it together. We got Penn State, and we got Indiana, and like all right, we're back up, and then we had the debacle on the 30th. We don't have to talk about that. But we all know injuries. We all know injuries played a part in why we underachieved a lot, because we had to reshuffle a lot.
But I mean, hats off to Justin Fry. The guy got a lot of criticism.
No, I agree.
And
I've had to swallow my words many a time on Justin Fry this year, and it pains me every time. But like, I mean, he's as good.
I mean, let's be real. The only reason anybody criticized him is for his recruiting. His development is not a question. It's really his recruiting. But every recruit this guy done missed out on all turned out to be bust. I mean, man, it'd be crazy how bad a lot of these guys they are, and we all flipped out because we missed on them, and then these guys turned out to be bad.
Right. No, I mean, I get that. Like, it's
can you guys see me?
We cannot see you, Sean.
No.
We can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay.
Yep.
I don't know what happened with my all of a sudden my computer screen just went blank. So if you can hear me, I'll still hang in here. You just can't see
absolutely.
me.
We can still hear you. Like I don't know. It's crazy to think like how like, and then after all that we go on the craziest playoff run in playoff history, and we beat 6 out of the top. We beat 6 top 5 teams this year. 6.
Mm-hmm.
That's insanity.
6 top 5 teams, and then like some of the top 10 teams as well. I think it's like what 6 or 7 top 10 teams.
Yeah, like think about it too. Like the narrative, like even after the Oregon game, Ryan Day can't win the big game, and then all of a sudden, in literally, essentially half a season, he flips the narrative completely on its head. He goes 6-1 against top 5 opponents, and just wins the national championship. Not a big deal, with a line that was way worse than he started the year with a quarterback nobody said was worth it. And it just turns out.
And look how they're changing the narrative now. Look how they're changing it. Oh, we bought a team, but y'all were laughing at the guys they brought in. The only guy you weren't laughing at was Caleb Downs. That was it. Everybody else you were just laughing at.
To be fair, we had $3 million worth of essentially money spent on transfers that started. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean,
yeah.
Caleb Downs and Will Howard essentially like are the 2 that we bought.
And Seth McLaughlin.
Yeah, and Quinshawn technically. Yeah, Seth McLaughlin too. And Quinshawn technically, but that's because him and Travion were rotating on who would start, then come in, and like it was always rotation between those 2.
And I think if you'd have gave Quinshawn like a bag of chips and told him like he could play with Trey, he probably would have showed up regardless. Like I don't think he was about the money.
Because he doesn't want to get beaten to the ground. He doesn't want to get beaten to the ground. He wants to have some tread on the tires. That's why.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that Lane Kiffin keeps taking shots at him on social media. I mean, come on, dude. You're a freaking clown, bro. He left your program because you're a moron, and you won a national championship. That's all you can do is run your mouth. You can't win any.
He can't win a natty.
No.
He can't win nothing. Like, dude, he left you because he got tired of being the ball carrier. Like, just because he knew he was getting worn into the ground and he needed some tread on the tires going to the NFL, and he wanted to compete for a natty. So who gave him the best chance to do that? Ohio State. Yeah, Travion and him, and that was the best backfield in the nation. I mean, the both of them just hit 1,000 yards in the same season, and now they still have tread on the tires going to the NFL.
Dude, show me another offense that had 2,000-yard receivers, two of them, and 2,000-yard backs. Talk about these guys were so unselfish, man. These guys deserve a lot of credit because they put the team first. They did not care about personal stats or trying to win a Heisman. They wanted to win a natty, and guess what? They did because they were unselfish.
Oh, do you also know this news too, that you have Oregon tampering with Carnell Tate, as well as a couple other teams trying to tamper with some of Ohio State's players?
If we know anything about Oregon, it is that they tamper with things, and
they tamper with everybody, but it's not just them. It's also other teams like Texas, Tennessee, and some other teams.
Listen, cheating's legal now. Like, why wouldn't you do it? Like, nobody's stopping you. Nobody's stopping. Like, when kids can come into the transfer portal with no contact tags and go, "I'm going here." Like, wait a second, you just entered the portal with you're not allowed to talk to anybody, and you know where you're going. Like, did you let them know? Because that's not the way that should work.
But that's the problem though, is they can still face consequences, because if you were tampering beforehand, you can still face. Because the NCAA does have a rule against tampering. Like, if you tamper, you're in trouble.
They've got to enforce it.
What makes me laugh, guys, is they have this do not contact when they go in the transfer portal. These kids, they have a little thing called do not contact. Well, if you're not talking to anybody, how do you know where you're going then? And how do you know that school would talk to you or want you if you weren't being tampered with? I mean, come on.
Well, I will say this: there is a loophole to do that. I think in regards around the agent, but some of these kids don't even have agents yet. Yeah. Like the Lucas kid, he ain't got no agent as far as I'm concerned. And I know Miami was tampering with him straight up, just talking to him.
Listen, like, you can backroom deal it and be like, oh, we need a receiver. I don't know if you know anybody or whatever, and talk to their agent, but like, that's still kind of tampering. Like, you know what I'm saying? But like,
it kind of is.
The NCAA has not actually enforced that rule like almost ever. Who's the last person they hit with tampering? Kurt Ferentz, who admitted it himself. Like, so what are we talking about?
Yeah, but I do think the reason though they went. Here's what I will say. I think they went easier on Kirk Ferentz in them because they admitted to doing it instead of hiding it. Whereas if they call some of these other programs, they might hit them harder.
Said that he did it, they wouldn't have done anything. Like, that's been proven. They don't do it. Every team tampers like, at this point. Like,
yeah,
the whole thing over like the kicker last year was like $50,000 that couldn't like be agreed upon, and he ended up going to Alabama. Like, that all happened. Like, he knew he left Miami of Ohio, knowing he was going to Alabama, and like that whole conversation happened beforehand. Like,
actually, the funny thing was Ohio State was in contact with him by the time he entered the portal, but they didn't want to be seen as tampering with another player, so they backed off. And to be honest, missing on a Miami of Ohio kicker really didn't mean anything because he was terrible at Bama this year.
Well, the funny thing was, Iowa gets caught tampering, and they still lose. The kid went back to Alabama. They didn't even get the kid, and they got nailed for it. I mean,
I would say they got
that was funny.
Created that situation, and Kurt Ferentz told on himself. But like, either way, like that's like the only time that rule's been applicable at this point, like, or at least applied by the NCAA.
Here's what I will say though. Here's what I will say is when it comes down to it, I don't want to hear like, you know how like Oregon's trying to flip Chris Henry Jr. from Ohio State.
Yep.
Yeah.
In recruiting, like here's my thing: if you're tampering with Ohio State's receivers, or you're trying to at least, what makes you think that you're better at development if you can't? If like Ohio State does not tamper with anybody's receivers, they got the room for it. If Oregon is as good as Ohio State, why are you tampering with Carnell? Why are you tampering with Brian Hartline's receivers?
Because they know they can't develop it.
Brian Hartline,
exactly.
If somebody got one of his receivers, because he'd be like, okay, I'll just get another one. Like,
right. But I mean, the thing though, but that's the thing though. It's like he will never take a receiver unless it's necessary. Like I think he did take one, but it was for special teams. Was the only time he did. And I was on the portal last time, and it was from like a lower tier school, very low in the from another division. So that's the only time he did it, and it was just for special teams. Tell me a high price receiver this guy would take out of the portal.
Nobody, unless Ryan Williams were to come in. I mean, if someone's like very special, then they might do it. But I mean, they took Bryson Rodgers.
They take a chance.
But I mean, that's
They took him back.
But they already got guys lined up. I mean, and this is, I mean, they lose a Mecca and it steps right in. So the guys are just, they're waiting their turn. They know that they're going to start the following year. They don't need to go to the portal for.
Oh yeah, they know. Trust me, these guys. Trust me, Carnell. Like when you talk to people at Ohio State, they already knew somebody was going to try to tamper with their roster, but they're not worried about it because they know all the starting receivers. They're staying here for another year. Especially if you look at like a Mecca, for example. The guy's always been in the shadow of Marvin, then JJ. He had no problem with it, and he was still a superstar. The guy's still going to be a first rounder.
Oh, if you look, Carnell's going to be a first rounder. Why would I'm?
Oh yeah. Oh no, he's not going to leave.
Why would Carnell leave? Everybody goes, well, you got JJ. Yep. Well, you know what? JJ's going to take all the attention away from him, all the double coverage, and Carnell's going to eat, just like Emeka did this year. Everybody, just
like Marvin did for Emeka and the wide receivers a couple years ago too. Marvin did the same thing. I mean, so. And the only way I can see Carnell leaving it would be for a bag, but he doesn't strike me as the type of kid that just chases the bag. He doesn't strike me that.
Everything he's been through already here, losing his mom while at Ohio, you know what I'm saying? Like everything he's been through, and like the way he showed up, and like, he just won a national championship. Like, why would you leave? Like, you can't tell me Dan Lanning's going to offer you anything better at all. Like, and like, no. I can design you some Nike shoes. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I mean,
dude, let me tell you something. Nike. Let me tell you something. Nike and Phil Knight are two different things. Like he could tell you about the shoe deal, but what makes you think Nike would want to give a unproven kid a shoe deal? What makes you think they would want to give anybody from Oregon a shoe deal?
Well, that's
if
like
you really think about it. Yeah. I mean, think about it though. The only type of people they might offer from college as far as Nike shoes would probably be the Ohio State players because JJ Smith, Caleb Downs, I know those two would probably get it because they're superstars, future NFL talents. And then like Marvin Harrison Jr. when he was here, Emeka, Denzel, Travion. You could even say the same thing with CJ and even Will Howard when he was here. And Nike loves Ohio State because when they win a natty, the fans are going to buy all that merch.
Dude, it went up 500% right before the game started, merchandise sales. I mean, imagine what it did after they won the title. Look at Michigan.
Oh, it went up by $1 million.
They went bankrupt.
Of course, that's because they know their natty's not legit. They know that natty's not legit. When the NOA comes out, they are going to be embarrassed to wear their stuff. So they never bought it. Because they know they can talk all about their natty. You never bought the gear because it's not legit and you're going to get made fun of.
I agree. But all I have to say to all of that is I actually own more special edition shoes in my name than Neem Offord does. And he signed with them for a bag. And we have a national championship. So what are we fucking talking about? Like, what I'm saying?
Dude,
I have design Nikes right there. Does he? No, I don't think so. Has he seen the Neem? No, he hasn't.
Dude, let me tell you something. The recruits like Devin Sanchez and it would take a shot saying, hey, don't go to Oregon for no shoe deal. Because that was like BS. Like, why would you go there for a shoe deal was never going to come to fruition?
Dude, they said he was going to get a shoe deal. I mean, in Nike's history, they've only given 2 defensive backs in the history of Nike a deal, and that was Dion and Daryl Rivas of Rivas Island. And trust me, Nakeem Offord's not.
And those guys are legends.
Exactly.
They are legends.
And nobody else has gotten one, man. So what makes them think he's so
the only other DB I can think of that could get a Nike shoe deal would be Caleb Downs. He's the only other one I can think of.
I mean, Travis Hunter, maybe.
Yeah, him too. But I'm talking about like if you're really just talking about like besides throw aside Dion's dudes for a second. If you want to talk just DBs in general, Caleb Downs might be the only one I can get it. I could even see Denzel possibly getting one if he continues to go up the mountain because he was a great DB. Yes, he had one bad game. Every DB does. Every great does. Deion Sanders had himself a hand of bad games before. That happens.
You're right. Everybody is. You got to have amnesia when you're a DB. You have a short memory because you know what? You're going to get burned. Everybody gets burned. It's like every receiver drops.
And look at what. I mean, look at what happens with when he got burned against Oregon, and when he faced them the second time, they didn't burn him again. They knew better at that point because Denzel was just covering these dudes.
No, I agree. Like, and to be fair, like the sad part is like DBs get burnt all the time, and fans tend to only remember the DBs that get burnt that hurt their feelings. that like Denzel, like you said, had one bad game, but like Latham's probably only had like 1 or 2 bad games, and people still talk about the Georgia game where he fell down. Like, well, he wasn't even. It's not even. That's not even his bag. Like, he's not there to cover. Like, he's there to end people's lives. Like,
that wasn't his responsibility. Actually, somebody else was supposed to cover, and they slipped and fell. People tend to forget that. I think it was supposed to be Steel Chambers or one of the other slot DBs. They fell, and Latham was left to try to go get that guy.
That's why you don't play
And that's
zero
fine.
coverage.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, I get it, though, because trying to play zero coverage, I mean, I would say with this defense, you can do that, and you're not going to have to worry about any of them slipping. That defense was not ready to do that yet.
I mean,
Yeah,
They had some.
I'd like to say something to the chat quick. I'm seeing all these trophies being popped out. From now on, guys, anytime you go into a web, any podcast, and you see any Michigan guy, just pop in there and say the champs are here and pop the trophies up like they used to do to us. From now on, every time you enter a chat, do that. The champs are here. Pop the trophies up. For the next year, we have bragging rights, and let's get our get back to those guys.
You know what's super funny is they used to pop fun at us for like with their natty, which soon is going to be relinquished. But they used to try to say about our 10-year natty, then we win a national title the year after them. Hilariously. Now they can't say nothing.
but did they have a sweet belt design? I don't think so.
No.
Fortnite doesn't have that belt. We do. So
Hey guys, let's give Tony some props there, man. He designed that belt. He does all their artwork here on the Buckeye Boys and all the thumbnails. That's Tony's sweet designs and the t-shirts. The dude is super, super talented, man. That belt is so sweet, bro. Thanks for sharing it with us and popping it up, man. Awesome job.
I'm not like super proud of all of my art. That belt, though, I'm super proud of. Like, I worked really hard on it. I worked on it before we won the Natty. Like, I started that after the Texas game, and I didn't tell anybody, so I didn't get blamed if we screwed it up. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can put the belt on a shirt if people want it, I guess. Like, it's, we don't have any Natty shirts or whatever, but like, literally, that belt, like, super proud of it. Like, I've had people ask me, like, is that real? And I'm like, no, why would I have a real belt? Like, it's just a design. Like, I mean, I would.
To be honest, you could have a real belt if they if WWE makes them.
Well, no, I mean, you can get belts made. Like, I did look into it because I did do a whole bunch of research to like find out how it was made. And like, I literally just started with like essentially a picture of a blank piece of steel that was that cut out.
Oh yeah, like you could go to those championship designs and just get it made, basically.
Yep.
Hey guys, since we started, since today, I noticed. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but Calvin Simpson Hunt did hit the portal. Yeah. He is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Williams-Dixon is gone. Gabe Powers is gone. We knew that was going to happen. Kind of hate to see Calvin Simpson Hunt leave, but he wasn't going to get any playing time.
Yeah, that sucks.
Sanchez come in.
Honestly, I thought he had a chance. Honestly, I thought he had a chance to be a starter with Jermaine and Lorenzo. I thought he had a chance because there are a couple of times, if you remember 23, we did have him in there. So yep. I think there could have been a chance he could have started. I'm not like, I don't think we should just automatically say, oh, Devin was going to get the starting job. Like, he's still got to come in and earn it.
Correct.
Like, if he earns it, that's great. But I think Calvin had a chance to be the starting corner. I do. Because he was talented.
Of course, you have Matthews and Aaron Scott, Bryce West. I mean, there's 3 5-stars right there. I mean, Jermaine could have started anywhere this year if he wouldn't have been on Ohio State, honestly. And he played.
Oh, he's still gonna start.
Yeah, I mean,
he's still gonna start because now that Denzel's leaving, man. Like, these guys don't have a problem sitting behind and waiting because they know they're gonna get a chance when these guys leave. And when you really think about it, it was actually better for them to come back because then you get to learn from them, and maybe you could apply it going into next year. And the best part is you still got playing time, so you got experience. You may not have the experience of a starter yet, or at least fully, because you did get a chance to start some games, but you still have the experience, so now you can carry that into your junior year, which is crazy. When you look at the defense, you got a ring on top of that. So when you think about it, you pretty much got a chance to sit and learn. You got a chance to develop more, and you're still going to get more chances to develop. You actually have a defense where, there's going to be some steps taken back, but it's not going to be significantly because you actually have guys who are experienced. Kenyatta and Caden, I think, are both coming back. You have Edric Houston, you have Caden McDonald, and we all think Caden McDonald could be the next Tyreek Williams with the way he was playing and how much he was getting grabbed.
Hero Canoe and Taiwan Malone got a lot of playing time this year. So you're going to have a great
they did.
Great defensive
And
line.
you're going to have Will Smith. You're going to have Will Smith Jr. Like you're going to have him too. You got the Josh Mickens, Logan George. I hear CJ Hicks is going to move down the DN. So he's going to be your new stand-up edge rusher. And you got you got Zion Grady coming in too. So you got some D-line talent coming in next year. On top of the fact their linebackers, I think Sonny will come back. I know he had a great game in the Natty, but his IQ, and even I think he knows that his IQ is not NFL level yet. He needs to come back and develop more. You're also going to have Arvell Reese, who I think is going to be a stud, like Sonny.
I've been the president of the Arvell Reese fan club this year, and I will continue to be because like, senior at the Ginn Academy in Cleveland literally said, I'm telling you, 2 people are about to be stars at Ohio State, Arvell Reese and Bryce West. All right.
Bryce West.
Like that man speaks the truth. So.
And that's Ted Glenn Jr. He does not butter up, bro. He does not overglow. He tells you the truth. Yep. Like when he says this guy gonna be a star, you take him for his word. Because he does not overglow.
2 guys on the defense that I think should come back, but I don't know that will. One is Sonny, of course. Sonny does need to come back and develop, but he's going to get a high grade. I don't think he's higher than a 2nd-round pick. Honestly, that's my opinion. But I think him and Iggy need to come back for another year. Now, if Iggy leaves, we're set, and I won't be sad. But if he comes back another year for that leadership and to develop, so he can't grab people. I mean, in the NFL, you can't grab people because that's a spot foul, and your butt will be
again. I do think he can do it because he showed towards the end of this stretch. I mean, even in the beginning of 23, he wasn't really grabbing as much in 23. It's 24 where he started doing it the most. And he showed he could cover without doing it. He likes being physical a little too much. Like, love your physicality, but you love being physical maybe a little too much.
Yeah, he's kind of like a 16-year-old on prom night. Like, he's a bit handsy. Like, calm down, son. You're fine. Like,
Joey Porter Jr. Except he's a better coverage guy than Joey Porter Jr.
Well, what's frustrating is he's in the position to make the plays. He doesn't need to grab. He's right there. That's what frustrates me the most. I'm just like, dude, if you just don't grab, you're right in perfect position. Just turn around and catch the dang ball. But like you said, he likes to grab. He likes to be physical. And that's what's frustrating about it. After 5 yards, you can't touch the guy.
Listen, I don't mind it. I don't mind the physicality. You got to learn how to control yourself is the thing.
Because he was lucky he didn't cost us a game this year. With all the penalties he got, he was lucky he didn't cost us a game.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's also what led to him anytime that, like, if it was like a little ticky-tack, like, let's say he wasn't grabbing at all. Let's say a receiver was grabbing him. They still would call the penalty on him because of his reputation. So I do think he should come back so he can get out of that habit more. But even if he goes to the NFL, it's not the worst thing in the world because I think he can learn how to not do it without, even going to the NFL.
I mean, he's top-notch talent, man. He's elite talent. There's no reason why he can't be a 2nd-round pick or even a 1st-round pick if he just knocked the hands crap off. He would
that's the only thing that's gonna hurt him. That would be the only thing that hurts him is the grabbing, the constant. But you can't say Joey Porter Jr. He still got picked in the 1st round despite how handsy he is, and he's not even as good as David when it comes to covering.
No, he's not.
Like, and you saw it too, because watch how he went up against Marvin. Like, David Benosin and Marvin, they were 50-50 when Joey Porter Jr. went up against Marvin. Bro, Marvin was torturing him. Even when he was being handsy with Marvin, Marvin was just physically abusing him, and it went over and abused his partner, Kayla King. So it's like.
Now, guys, let's talk about the offense here with the upperclassmen. I think, I don't know if we're going to lose anybody besides the people that we expect. I mean, Quinshawn was probably the only question mark that we can think of. I think he's
gone.
I think he's gone. Put himself into the NFL with that national championship game he had. I mean, 3 touchdowns. The man balled out, ran like a man possessed. I mean, he was blocking.
And he should. He should. Like, I think he actually is an NFL running back. I do.
I mean, I think he's an easy 2nd-round pick. So.
Yep. Him and Travion are 2 guys who could have played themselves into the 1st round if running backs weren't so devalued. But I think you are starting to see running backs get valued back again because of Saquon and Derrick Henry. But I do think that Trayvon's blocking as well as Quinshawn's, I think makes them super valuable. Because remember, that's what makes Zeke very valuable. He could do everything. He could run the ball in between the tackles. Trey and Quinshawn can do that. He could catch the ball in the backfield. Trey and Quinshawn can do that. And that guy was not afraid to put a defender on his butt, flat on his back. He was a blocker, and he would even block 300, 400-pound D linemen and do it with no problem. That's what Trayvon and Quinshawn can do. Block linebackers, block D linemen. They will kill you if you try to come after their quarterback. They hit you.
If you
They
guys
flat
all
out
look
just
at-
hit you.
if you look at that last play that Will Howard threw the deep ball to JJ, the play that basically
Trayvon
sealed
killed that linebacker.
exactly.
Trayvon killed that linebacker.
He stoned him. So he gave Will Howard the added time that he needed to throw that ball perfectly to JJ and end that game.
Yeah, I mean,
it
if you look back at it, if you look back at the side angle, the linebacker's head literally snapped back.
Also, Quinshawn also might have the best stiff arm in all of the game. Like that dude stiff arm people and they bounce off the ground like a basketball. That's ridiculous. Like literally grown men bouncing them off, like dribbling them. It's crazy. Side note though,
It's hilarious.
I did find this this was mentioned to me before, but like since we were talking about Caleb Downs and Carnell Tate and stuff or whatever, like they're doing a camp in Columbus. It looks like April 27th for kids. So like if you have kids, you have kids or whatever, like I would sign up and go. Like you could go hang out with the national champions. Caleb Downs, stand up dude. Carnell Tate, stand up dude. Like I would, any kid that wants to do anything with football, I would say go to that. You know what I'm saying? Help the university, help those kids. Like that's a cool experience for a 6 to 16-year-old. Like I would, if I was that age, if my kids were that age, I would absolutely, dude. Like that would be so sweet to go do. So like I definitely had to plug that, you know what I'm saying? Like why I had it, like I found it and I was like, yeah, I definitely gotta put this up there. So
guys, absolutely. I'm happy.
I just want to point out this year we had 2 new coaches on the coaching staff. We had Coach Locke and we had James Laurinaitis. And if you take a look at the way our running backs played this year and look at how the linebackers started and ended the year, those 2 guys were just so valuable pickups for this staff. I mean, just look at the improvement all year long. I mean, if you can even go with our tight ends really, really improved all year long too. I mean, this coaching staff was dynamite.
Give credit to Keenan Bailey, Lachlan, and Laurinaitis, man. Those 3 coaches this year, I mean, they deserve all kinds of credit. And Ryan Day putting together probably the best coaching staff in the nation and probably the best coaching staff we've ever had at Ohio State, hands down.
You know, I said at the beginning of the season, like, or sometime during the season, I can't remember when, but I said, this feels like the end of Avengers Endgame. Like this season feels like Ryan Day's like, I'm waiting for Ryan Day to come out and like scream Avengers Assemble. And you know what I'm saying? Like face down Thanos. And he did it. Like he took a loss like they did in Avengers, you know what I'm saying? And like he came out and just ran it back down their throat. And like I couldn't have been more happy. Like that's what it felt like all season. Was like, dude, this feels like just us losing to Thanos over and over again and we can't win. And then he somehow just won. And it's
hey guys,
wild.
I need to be corrected here. Matt Guerrieri was also a new coach, our safety coach. And you know what? Our safeties were just the best in the nation. So I mean,
the depth was crazy. The depth was crazy at safety. I love the depth.
I mean, just look at the job this coaching staff did all year long. I mean, there was 2 times that this team could have went off the rails. I mean, after the Oregon game, there could have been a lot of finger pointing that they could have got down on themselves and they didn't. Then after the Michigan game, the heck of a job that they did to rally everybody together. And, you know, one thing, you had such leadership in the locker room with being such a veteran team. But for Ryan Day to keep them guys together and not, you know, just implode, I mean, what a heck of a job by Ryan Day and this coaching staff.
Well, yeah, I agree. And like people have been saying all day, I've been hearing people talk about like, oh, this is not one of the greatest Ohio State teams. They have the losses or whatever. Like, listen, man, the 2019 team that like smashed our face in lost that year. Like most great teams end up losing. Like there's not a lot of times that you have like a Miami that wins 32 games in a row and is like the undefeatable juggernaut because they still lost too to us. So like, you know, like at the end of the day, like it's more likely now with the parity of college football that like you're going to end like every year with the national champion have like 1 or 2 losses, if not more. Like it's the parity now is much more like the NFL than it is, you know what I'm saying? And like, I think people are getting used to like, oh, you know, before it was like, well, we lost one game and it's over. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's
You know,
4 other teams like
yeah,
that haven't lost a game. We're out. Like, that's not going to be
yeah.
the
I
case
mean, here's
anymore.
what I will say. Here's what I will say is for people like when you look at the 2024 team, I think what makes this team, I think one of the greatest teams of all time, and you can even put them up there in the stratosphere of the greatest, is the adversity they went through, the way they got punched in the face and responded. Because I know
I mean, to be fair,
about wait.
to be fair, the 2014 team faced some real life adversity, like from the beginning of the season. You know what I'm saying? You had your Heisman winning, like our Heisman candidate quarterback Braxton Miller go down in training camp, and then you know you had a freshman quarterback JT Barrett who can barely throw the ball. You know, come in. They literally, you know, they had. Yep. Literally, they had you know, they had a lot of stuff go wrong that year. You know what I'm saying? Like they had a teammate kill himself during the season right before the Michigan game. JT Barrett broke his leg, so now you're on your 3rd string quarterback. Like, you know, so adversity is like, yes, this team faced some adversity, but like I don't think it was that level of adversity, but like this team was also built up far more than that team was. You know what I'm saying? Like Urban was expected to achieve.
If you look, the one common thing between the 02 team, the 2014 team, and the 2024 team is they all faced adversity. The whole, right, I mean, every team, yeah. and that's what helped them. I mean, nothing was, you know, there was nothing that these guys couldn't get over, man. I mean, in 22, they played so many close games, had so many, you know, near misses, and they were battle tested, and they knocked off, you know, the juggernaut. And then, of course, 2014, like you talk about, you lost the Big Ten Player of the Year, the Heisman Trophy favorite. Then you get your quarterback in, you develop him all year, and he, you know, tears his knee up in the Michigan game.
He broke his leg.
Broke his leg, and you got to go to your 3rd string quarterback, who really hadn't had that many snaps, to be honest. And what's he do? He balls out.
Yeah, he was known for like the tweet that says we aren't out here playing school, like. You know, like I would agree with Melo's ranking of them. This season holds a magical special place. It's hard between the 2002 and 2014. I side with the 2002 is the second, just because like I lived through the John Cooper era where it was like I knew nothing about winning with Ohio State. The whole first part of my life, it was all disappointment. You know, up until after I was graduated from high school after that happened. Like, so I went like. You know what I'm saying? I was like, whatever. I was 19 or 20 when that happened. So like, all I knew was like not actually being able to win the big game. And like, we went up against like a team that like was right up there with like the USC teams that won like a bajillion games in a row. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they came out on top when they shouldn't have. Like this team at least was high. The 2014 was hyped up, and the 14 team we knew like Urban Meyer should have won 2 years before when we weren't able to go to the postseason. So like we knew like we had some stuff. But, like the adversity is, I guess, the common, you know, theme for it. It's like how they've all kind of rose up at different points in time in different ways. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I really think we don't get to this point. We don't have the playoff run that we had if we don't get our faces kicked in against Michigan and we don't lose that heartbreaker to Oregon. We beat Oregon. Like, I don't even know if, we might have like limped through the rest of the season and looked pretty good and maybe even beat Michigan. But I don't think we come out and be this aggressive. I don't think we have the defensive prowess that we have. Like, I think all those things had to change, and those things came from the losses that we suffered and how utterly heart-wrenching they were. Like, how much if they hurt us that bad, how much do you think it hurt that team? Those kids wanted nothing more, and all they've been is pumped up as they're the greatest. And they came out, and you have a whole senior class of kids that haven't done anything, and everybody just says it's like a bust. Like, that has to hurt, man.
I mean, that Natty trumps all their disappointments. They righted a lot of wrongs. I mean, to me, 2002 will always go down as the first. I mean, that will always be my favorite team. Just because, like you said, I grew up through the Cooper years. They had 3 or 4 teams that should have won Natties, and they didn't get it done. They always choked. And here comes 2002. They barely beat Cincinnati by 5 points. They had 5 games that were either 7 points or less. And then they make it to the they're undefeated and they make it against Miami, who had lost one game in 2 years and has nothing but a whole team filled with NFL players and some really, I mean, even a couple Hall of Famers on that team. And what do? They shocked the world and they beat them. I mean, they broke through the wall. 2014 kind of came out of nowhere because we didn't expect it. And they come out. I mean, they had those injuries. They carried through. I mean, fought through it. Cardell Jones became, a hero. And this team, man, one thing about this team is we all expected them to win the Natty, but no one expected them to go through what they did. And they went through the toughest run, the best run in the history of in college football. I mean, nobody's had a harder time to get to a championship than this team did. So I guess, all of them in their own way has a special place and Buckeye history. So
no, and I listen, I agree. Like literally the 2014 team had probably what was one of the tougher runs out of it. Like they faced two of the Heisman finalists and the Heisman winner that year through their run from the Big Ten championship to the, to the championship, and they smacked them all around, you know what I'm saying? And we, that was the year we slayed the dragon and Nick Saban, you know what I'm saying? That felt good, writing that narrative. But this year, I think even holds a more special place because of how personally involved I was in it. At least my own personal thought on it. It was this is the first time I spent every day of the off season just indulging in Ohio State football, and then being involved with, being a moderator in chats of podcasts, and then being here and just interacting with everybody and literally being at the forefront and the pulse of Buckeye Nation, feeling that heartbreak on a level that I haven't felt heartbreak over something I love, since losing a friend that died, or, I'm saying, something like that level, so it holds a more special place than 2014. That was very special. And 2002 was very special, but this one was it felt more personal because I felt me and all of us and everybody was involved. You know what I'm saying? I felt I was on the front lines. You know what I'm saying? You watch war from the sidelines and you're oh, that's horrible. But then you go to the front lines and you go oh no, I feel it. You know what I'm saying? You genuinely go through the ups and downs, the same thing that, this team goes through on it.
A bunch of us that are, me, Devin, Mello, and a bunch of these guys in the chat, we've been going to Scoop every night for over a year now. 7:00, we all meet there every night. I barely missed a night of Scoop. And you know what? For a year, all we did was look forward to this season. And we talked every day. All of us became friends. This community has grown. We started, we all started watching at Scoop. Then we'd go to Ohio Podcast, go to Jux, watch his show. And, Devin and Mello started this, beautiful channel. And here we are getting to be a part of it. And it's just we all together for a year put so much energy and time into, following this team, so much love. And it's so special because I've made so many great friends. I would have never met any of these people if it wasn't for, Scoop and the Buckeye football and all of us becoming friends and, our own little family here. And it's just morphed into something awesome, man. And here we are, our own show, kicking it with our friends, everybody, getting a chance to celebrate, man. This has just been one heck of a ride, man.
Well, it has. Think about where we were after the Michigan game last year. You know what I'm saying? After that loss, and then we have the Missouri debacle. Ryan Day suffered two of the worst program losses in history, almost, the Missouri game and this year's Michigan game. Not to mention the fourth time he lost to Michigan. And ask anybody now, and people are oh yeah, I guess he did that too. But he won the national championship. This season felt like the one that literally we as Buckeye Nation all willed into existence. We, took words into power and spoke this into happening. And nobody believed us. No one believed us. Everybody doubted us forever on everything we said this year, especially, and after all the losses and everything. Literally, a lot of us stood in the paint. Me, you, Mello, all of us stood there. And I said, even after those losses, I said after the Indiana game, during that game, I said fanatically, I came on this show and said, we're going to win. I know it in my heart. We're going to win. You don't have to tell me anything else about it. I just know that's what's going to happen.
Hey, I was at the Michigan game and I took it hard. I was very, very upset. And I said, instead of saying, a bunch of people were screaming fire Ryan Day. And I said, you know what? I said, I want to see what he does in the playoffs. If he can pull it off and pull these guys back together, I said, but he's going to have to show me. And, he did. He proved it, man. He proved he is an elite coach and he's an elite human being. I mean, people were taking death threats at his family. Come on, guys. We're all passionate, diehard fans, but his family didn't do nothing. You should never go after anybody's family. If you want to boo him or, cuss the team out for sucking it up against Michigan or, playing horrible, boo, yell, cuss them out, whatever, but don't threaten anybody. And I know a lot of these people in this chat would not, do that, but there's some crazy people like there is in every fan base. But man, Ryan Day and his family, so happy for him. They got the monkey off their back. It was just beautiful, man. I had tears in my eyes when they won. I was so proud of them and happy and couldn't stop screaming. And I was texting Steely and Mello and everybody, man. I was so happy, man.
No, listen, I was too. Like you saw, I'm sure at least everybody in the little circle has seen the picture of me crying after the Texas game. I was crying like my children just died, like literally uncontrollably, like was screaming so loud during that game. Like when Jack took off with that ball, I passed out. It was that outrageous, dude. And I was guilty as everybody else, of saying some outrageous things. I didn't after the Michigan game. I didn't come on this podcast for a week because I was despondent, bereft with oh my God, what are we gonna do? You know what I'm saying? It was all hope was lost. And literally, we just did a 6-hour podcast right before that, dude, where I was cash money out the door talking crazy. And then we had to eat our words. And I came back and we stood in the paint and we took it and it hurt. It still hurts. I'll be mildly depressed about that for a long time. But this makes it way easier to swallow. You know what I'm saying? You can dunk on me once, but I bet you we dunk on you harder. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. I think it's just how we were raised, you know what I'm saying, with the hatred for an entire state of people. But this, at the end of the day, listen, after all of the last year we went through, this year was the righting of all the wrongs. The one time where we're listen, we're taking all the wrongs of the last 15 years and we're putting them back together and we're making it right. That's it.
These guys forever get to walk through history as champions, man. And there's nothing that they can do to take that away. They did it the right way. They didn't have to cheat. They didn't have to steal. They didn't have to lie. They did it the right way, man. And all those kids can walk out with their heads held high. Yeah, they have no gold pants, but you know what? They got the giant gold ring. And that giant gold ring trumps everything, baby. Yep. They don't raise banners for beating the team up north, and they don't raise banners for winning the Big Ten championship. What do they raise banners for? Natties.
Listen,
don't get me wrong. I hate Michigan, and I never want to lose to them ever again. But you give me a chance to have a natty or to win that game, I'm taking the natty. That's just me. And I'm not going to criticize anybody that says otherwise, they'd rather see the Michigan game. Fine, man. We're all Buckeyes. We all love the Buckeyes. That's your prerogative. I'm not going to hate on you. But I'm just going to say, those kids had a lot riding on their shoulders this year. And at the beginning of the year, what was it? Natty or bust?
And listen, if that was the stated mission, because that's never been the stated mission. They have all those goals at the end of the year, the beginning of the year, it's win the natty, but they've never flat out said this is it. You know what I'm saying? And all those gold pants that all those teams won before is amazing. And they have a special place in my heart that we beat that team for 20 plus years straight almost. But those teams will go down in Ohio State history. This team will literally go down in college football history. Yeah. Where you want to be. Nobody's in 10 years, nobody that's not an Ohio State fan is going to say oh, that team didn't win any of their stated goals. You know what I'm saying? They're literally going to go that team looked like they were, they were crowned champions at the beginning of the year. And then they looked like they weren't going to be. And then they came out and showed everybody that they were flat out. There was no, dude, they beat 4 top 5 teams by more than 10 points each, going away, that's insanity.
They didn't even come close to, the game being in jeopardy. And
they played one of the worst games of the year, against Texas, and they still had a 14-point swing in the last 2 minutes. That doesn't, the ball just doesn't usually bounce our way. That's why I knew that was what triggered my entire bawling fit at that point in time. It was like, this is not even like a fluke at this point. It's not luck, nothing. This is like us genuinely rising to the throne. You know what I'm saying? This is like, what is happening here? And like, it was overwhelming.
If you look, man, we lost 2 games by a total of 4 points. 4 freaking points. You know what I mean? Hey, I mean, if they would have won those 2 games, this would have went down as the greatest team in the history of football. But hey, I still think they're top 5 no matter what. There might be 1 or 2 teams that, you know, might have finished perfect that, you know, edge them out because they have them 2 blemishes. But like, this is a whole new era of college football, man. It's like the NFL. You don't see people going undefeated in the NFL, do you? No. 12-team playoff. I mean, you're not going to have 1 game that's just going to crown the national championship. You got to win 4 games to be a champion now.
And they played 4 of the toughest games that, like, they went on the craziest run ever that, like, people don't even go through in a whole season. They played 4 games in a row and did it and won by double digits. Like, tell me a better team, please. I don't care who we lost to. Tell me a better team that showed up against 6 top 5 teams at this point and won going away. Like, none. Yeah. It hasn't happened. That's why it's a record. Like, it hasn't happened until now. So, like, you can preach to me about every other team and whatever, but like, no team was anointed this at the beginning of the season and completed it like this. You had Hall of Fame coaches literally saying, like, this is the greatest team I've ever seen. Like, absolutely, hands down, going away. And like, because of whatever perceived problems, coaching issues, whatever, rotation, anything like that, like an amalgamation of things that like literally fell on everybody's shoulders, they still, at the end of the day, when it was time to put up or shut up and it was win or go home, guess what? We won. Yeah. Everybody else went home. So there's nothing more to talk about. Nobody else has done that. And I don't think anybody else in the next 20 years of this college football playoff with 12 or 14 or how many ever teams you add are going to do it.
I'm hoping, if someone else does it, my hats will be, I'll tip the hat and I'll say, good job, guys. I mean, let's just hope that, we can run it back for a back-to-back. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. So, guys, we get to this point where it's time to end the show, and I'd like to thank everybody that was in the chat today. Dev, Mello, our boy Steely, Lacey, Vader, our boy Vader, who always brings it. Cheryl, thank you, Cheryl, for coming in.
Buck Forever, Darnell, sorry.
Troy V, Daryl, Troy V, Drink, Lunatic Fringe.
Can't talk about Ryan Day's beard.
Ryan Day's beard. The championship beard now.
Right.
We changed it.
My bad.
Ryan
Sorry.
Ryan Day's championship beard. Mark P. All you guys, if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be able to do what we do, man. And Raw Dog too. So guys, we thank you. I mean, if you got any final words you want to say here, Tony?
Dude, this is the greatest season of football that'll ever go down in history, and I'm honored to be a part of it. I'm honored to be with you and all these people here, and to to rejoice, to rejoice in what is happening right now. Like, literally, like, we're seeing a whole nother age of college football open up, and we took the forefront and have proved why for 100 years Ohio State has been relevant in college football, and for 100 more will be relevant. So, I'm here for it. And if anything now, being involved in it more, it feeling so much more personal. Dude, it's so much more rewarding to dunk on people when it's really personal to you. Oh man. I have to listen, I'm a horrible winner, and we're going to take some victory laps, and you're probably going to hate me by the end of the year, but hey, listen, we've suffered a lot. It's time, kids. So rejoice in all of this and enjoy it. Rewatch all the games and, recry, love it. Might not be another Buckeye team like this ever again. So you saw it firsthand. Be proud.
TG.
Yeah, sorry guys, I had to leave. I had some family matters to attend to.
No problem.
You're good.
All good. Final words, final thoughts. Tell us how you felt about the season.
Oh, how I felt about the season was, hey, look, it was an up and down, fun ride of a season. I pretty much expected the team to go through some struggles just because it's this is not a video game. It was going to take some time for them to develop chemistry. So, but I feel like the season was a total success. I love it. I don't care that these guys lost 2 games. Listen, The fact that they lost 2 games, they faced adversity, and they came back, to me, puts them up there with the greatest teams. Because as I was trying to say before the family stuff came in, LSU, I don't think they could have been able, the 2019 LSU team particularly, I don't think they would have been able to handle adversity. I don't think they could have. Biggest reason, coaching. We talk about how coaching matters in this sport. Do we not talk about how the 2019 LSU coach is the worst coach to ever win the Natty? The top 2 worst coaches are LSU coaches to ever win the Natty.
And their defense was legendarily bad too. Like they were like a sieve, dude. So like
yeah. So when I hear people say that this 2024 team couldn't beat this 2019 LSU team, that's BS. Like you're revising history. I mean, and put this out there as a clip. Stop revising the history of the 2019 LSU team. They weren't this dominant team everybody breaks them out to be. Their defense was horrible.
Listen, before you go further, I will say this, and it might be the most outlandish thing anybody's ever heard, and it might hurt people's hearts. I think when you look at the stats and you look at the end of the season, like Will Howard, better quarterback than Joe Burrow in 1 year. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to deny that Joe Burrow is more talented, but when you look at what Will Howard was able to do, I mean, come on, man. You had to worry about a mobile quarterback. Like LSU's, I mean, we talked about it with LSU's defense against Justin Fields. How do you think they would have handled? Not well, because guess what? You had to worry about the receivers. You had to worry about J.K. Dobbins. You had to worry about the running backs, the receivers, the tight ends, and you had to worry about Justin Fields. You had to worry about all of that. His ability to throw and his ability to move. Well, guess what you have to worry about Will Howard? Both. Now, he may not be as athletic as Justin, but he got the mobility and the athleticism to get away. So he would have been able to handle that LSU defense. That one would be a problem. The fun matchup would have been LSU's offense versus the defense. That would have been a fun matchup. And I think Ohio State could have came away with the victory, both 2019 and this team, because defensively, they are so much better than LSU's defense. And I think their defense can hang with LSU's offense. I'm not saying they're going to stop it, but they can hang with it. Especially 20. Yeah, they absolutely could have slowed them down. Especially the 2019 team, because you had Chase Young, the most unblockable edge rusher. And guess what? You got Jack and JT, guys who had some of the greatest games of an edge rusher than Chase Young and the Bosa's. Those are 3 of the greatest edge rushers of all time. None of them had the greatness, the greatest games that we've seen. None of them did. Not like JT and Jack. Like, name me a game that those guys had that was like JT back at Penn State or Jack Sawyer against Texas.
If they did, it was against nobodies. You know what I mean? They dominated nobodies.
That's the point. Like, they didn't have these kind of games against great competition. Not like they weren't capable of doing it, but they just didn't. So
I think they were more consistent than what Jack and JT were.
Yeah, they were more consistent, but I'm saying like they can have these type of games, but we haven't seen them have that kind of game yet, at least in Ohio State. So I would say that this 2024 team, I will forever remember it. I do wish, and this is what I will say, stop doing prevent defense, because the biggest reason Riley Leonard was able to throw the ball was against prevent defense. Listen, I don't care how bad of a passer he is. It's like Caleb Williams. I don't care how bad of a passer they are. If you're playing prevent defense, they're going to dice it up. Any quarterback, no matter how bad they are passing, can. Just because their receivers are wide open.
Hey, I saw my Cleveland Browns lose a playoff game that would have an AFC championship game because their coach went to prevent and John Elway went up and down the field. It's always going to beat your
defense. It always will. Prevent defense beats you. So I will say Ohio State needs to quit doing that. Other than that, I'm completely happy with how the 2024 season shaped out. Again, I don't care about how they had. Okay, that's great. They lost 2 games, and it allowed them to grow. LSU would not be able to do that, because imagine if they had to face a team like this. And same with the Miami team. I mean, we just talked about 2002 team. That Miami team got punched in the mouth and did not know what to do after that. They were shell-shocked because they didn't know how to handle adversity. It's the same thing I was saying about that 2019. Again, it's the same thing I was saying about that 2019 LSU team. Click this. I don't care. Share it with everybody, because it's the truth. These teams would never be able to handle that adversity because they never got punched in the mouth. When they meet teams like this, they got punched in the mouth. They would have been shell-shocked, and their coaches definitely wouldn't know how to coach. Ryan Day does. And I would take Ryan Day over LSU's head coach and this coaching staff over LSU's coaching staff. That's why I know Ohio State could beat that 2019 LSU team. Because coaching matters. Say whatever you want. It does. Leadership matters, especially the ability to handle adversity, getting punched in the face. And trust me, this Ohio State team will not let their foot off that Joe Burrow team. Not with that offense. They are not taking their foot off the gas. They will run the score up just to make sure just to make sure they win that game. Promise you.
Yeah, yeah. How would Joe Burrow handle Latham Ransom? But like, everybody said I'm wrong in the chat about the Joe Burrow thing. But like, all I'm saying is like, go back and read the record books, because it seems like Will Howard threw for 80% like all the time. And
dude, he has a record of 8 games, completion percentage of 80%. A record 8 games. That is
the record in the national
record.
championship game for completion
80%.
in a row. Like
that was 80% completion. His 8th game was in the national title for 80% completion.
Right.
Will Howard has surpassed Justin Fields as the most accurate quarterback in college football. Justin was the most accurate the last 25 years. Joe Burrow, then CJ, then Dwayne, Patrick, and you can go down the list.
And
Will Howard just passed all of them in 1 year.
Joe Burrow had 2 of like generational receivers on that team. Like their receiving core was like every bit as good as ours at this point. Like, I mean, maybe there wasn't a JJ, but like
so
Justin Jefferson.
We have 3. They only had 2.
Yeah, but those two are pretty.
Yeah, those 2 are elite. But I'm just saying, when you have a third receiver, you got to work off of. That's bad.
We're 3 deep, but like, I mean, those might amalgamate. Either way. And
not to mention, we also had Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jason Remember with that 2019 team, and an even deeper receiving unit with KJ Hill, Austin Mack, and them dudes. Because our receiving unit is just deep. Theirs was not. You only had Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. For granted, these 2 all-time great receivers for sure. Right. But when you have depth and you have elite receivers at the level Ohio State does, you could actually get away with a lot of stuff.
This is where this team was really great, because they had the depth over all these other teams. I mean, they could handle. I mean, look at what happened to the offensive line. We lost 1 first-round tackle and the best center in college football.
Yeah, the Remington Award-winning center.
Yes, I mean, what would we have done if we'd have had them for the full year?
Oh, the offensive line would have been freaking dominant. Like, no one would stop this offense. Just dominant, especially running the ball. They'd just be dominating D-lines.
I mean, hats off, because those boys balled out at the end and they played their asses off. And, I'm proud of that offensive line. And you know what? I criticize Justin Fry for his terrible recruiting, but the man knows how to develop and he knows how to coach. And Chip Kelly, people say he lost it. But you know what? The man's the best schemer in all college football, man. I wouldn't want another offensive coordinator.
Justin Fry, I'm not gonna lie. If you ask me, I'd rather have, when it comes to offensive line, I'd rather have a coach that can develop than a coach that can recruit. For this very reason, development matters at offensive line. I understand you need bodies. Trust me, I get it. Now he recruits great in the portal. Let's not understate that.
Yeah, that's true.
But I would rather have an offensive line coach that can develop, because we've seen how many offensive linemen, 5 stars especially, that wind up going to places and they turn out to be complete busts because these teams don't know how to develop them. Like Nick Saban's Alabama Crimson Tide, the reason they had great offensive lines is because they had great offensive line coaches that knew how to develop. It doesn't matter if you're a 5-star. It doesn't matter how talented you are. Development matters at the end of the day. If you're not getting the development, you will suck. We've seen it time and time again. So I'd rather have an offensive line coach that can develop than recruit. I'm not going to lie.
That's the thing. With the state of college football now, you can have 1 billion coaches on the sideline. It doesn't matter. Just get a recruiting coach and send Justin Fry to develop.
Pretty much.
You can do that.
Just do that.
1 million coaches working for you, so it doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah, that's the best part, is having somebody who can recruit. Now, I think Justin Fry will still try to, because you're still going to have to get because the one thing they will try to do is use the whole, the position coach. No, the reason is because they know he's not great. Like, he's great recruiting in the portal, but for some reason, the high school level, I will never understand. But you can also say the same thing with Larry Johnson, because for some reason, he can never hold on to his defensive linemen, particularly the edge rushers, because we lost out here Matthews and London Merritt. I don't know for what the reason, but it's just the weirdest. Well, yeah, the money too, Sean. I mean,
cheating's legal everywhere in
college. Colorado dropped the big bag, and they wouldn't.
Pretty much.
Ohio State wouldn't match.
Because these guys aren't proven. This is the thing these guys need to understand, and these parents need to understand. Ohio State's not just going to drop the bag. When you look at the people they've paid, it's guys who are proven. Bro, Jeremiah Smith didn't even get this kind of bag. He was getting more money offered to him from Miami and Florida State. He chose to come to Ohio State to get developed. And guess what? That's how much money this guy's going to be making. Close to like $4 to $5 million. You know why? Because of what he did on the field. That's something that Ohio State can tell these players. Like, if y'all want this money, Show us on the field. Do what JJ Smith did. Do what JT, Jack, Travion, Will Howard, all these guys that are on our team, they got their money because they proved it on the field. Caleb Downs is probably going to get like $3 to $5 million. Why? Because he's proving it on the football field. This is what you have to do when you go to the NFL. Treat every year like a contract year. That's what Ohio State makes you do. Treat it like a contract year. Why? Because you want the money, you got to earn it. And you got to do it in the NFL too, because they're not just going to give you money if you're not earning it. Because a lot now you do have some dumb owners and some dumb people, let's be honest. You can trick out of that. And you're seeing that in college football. But
look at A&M.
Yeah, but you can look at like other teams who are not willing to give you the bag, especially because if you turn out to be a bust, they're not paying you. I mean, just look at Cedero Henderson. I mentioned him on the show as a guy who was this 5-star offensive lineman Ohio State missed out on. Complete bust. Got cut 2 years into the league, 2 years into his rookie deal because he sucked. He didn't prove anything. And
a lot of these guys.
As Bello said, we held on to Edric Houston, but that's because Edric Houston knew he wanted to be here.
Yep. It might be developed by Larry Johnson. That's same with Ziggy Grady. He wanted to come here because Larry Johnson's a goat and he wanted to learn.
Yeah,
those kids, they're going to get their money.
Yeah, that's something I never understand with people because with some of these kids, I get it. If you're trying to get your parents out of the hood and you're trying to get as much money as you can, I can understand that. But if you want to have a long-term future, like we talked about Chris Henry, Oregon trying to go after him, here's what I will tell Oregon. He's from an NFL family. And the one thing about these NFL families, they don't care about money. They want to know what they're going to do for their kids. You talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr.'s dad said, the only school and the only program, the only coaches I trust to develop my son is Ohio State, Ryan Day, and Brian Hartline. You look at Jeremiah Smith, his family only trusted Ohio State with his development. The reason they trust them is because of their history. Like, Brian Day used to be a wide receiver coach. Brian Hartline is regarded as one of, if not the greatest wide receiver coach in football right now. And you hear how people in the NFL talk about him being the best wide receiver coach in the NFL. Dude don't even coach in the NFL. It's because of what he does sending receivers to the NFL. So
they're already ready. I mean, they're ready to go.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people talk about Marvin and the season he had. I pointed this out to a lot of people. Marvin wasn't the focal point of the offense. Arizona's offense was run heavy. They did not get him involved enough. Their plan next year, and it took them all this year to finally realize that, get Marvin more involved in the game plan. Get him the ball more. They know how ready he is. They can see it. But at the end of the day, it's like you better get him the ball now. Right? So that's what they're going to do for him moving forward. Going into his sophomore year. But when you look at how NFL receivers are now, I mean, Brian Hartline is regarded as the most impactful wide receiver to ever play in the NFL from when he played. And now look at the impact he's making as a coach. Like, if you're a wide receiver like Chris Henry Jr., I don't think he's ever going to flip to Oregon because he sees what Brian Hartline does. He values that over money. And until Oregon can prove they can develop receivers at the level Brian Hartline does, I don't think they're ever going to get them.
I mean, same thing can be said about Tim Walton. What we do with the DBs. We develop them at a high clip, just like we do with receivers.
No, he's developed some of the best DBs in the NFL.
Exactly. I mean,
Jalen Ramsey is the number one DB.
Yep. And he's calling kids. He's the number one DB.
Marvin. Yeah, Jalen Ramsey, he's the number one DB in the NFL. He was developed by Tim Walton. And guess what? It was super funny is Marvin actually cooked Jalen Ramsey back when he played against them in Miami, which is super funny. I said that's hilarious.
Well, guys.
Yeah, we probably should wrap it up. We got a bit off the rails there.
Yeah, that's all right. Hey, guys, it's.
Well, that's because I just got on and I had to unmute.
Hey, by all means. By all means.
You're awesome, TG. And everybody loves you. So, heck yeah. So, guys. Again, we appreciate everybody coming on here and kicking it with us. And all you guys that support us, we appreciate it. We're all one big family, and we're enjoying this awesome title, which for our next year is our bragging rights, baby. So when you see a Michigan fan and they try to rub in the November 30th and say 13-10 to you, to say Natty. Nobody can trump
everybody
that.
You know.
Everybody Natty you know. Forever trumpet. And
exactly.
And everybody, I will say this on top of that, is when you go back to the 06 season, which one do you remember most? The Michigan game or the game that Ohio State lost in the Natty against Florida? Which one do people talk about more?
I talk about the Florida game a lot because they lost it. And they got
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
know,
No one cares about that 06 game. No one even mentions the Michigan
I mean,
Ohio
it was-
State.
It was called the
game
greatest game of the
before
century.
this.
It was 1 versus 2. So I mean, it's not a big deal or anything, but
Yeah,
they do talk about the Florida game more.
If it's the greatest game, why is no one talking about it? Why is everybody bringing up the Natty loss? Because it's the Natty.
Because
That
it was
trumps
so
it.
bad. It was so bad. Like, so, yeah.
But guys, thanks
I mean,
again for
Ted
tuning
Ginn
in.
get injured.
First play of the game.
Yep.
All right, kids. Well, I guess one last thing to say. OH.
IO.
I know.